New Orleans man is under arrest after state police raided two suspected chop shops in New Orleans East.
This as the number of car thefts is on the rise. Paul Murphy has the stats and tell us how this type of crime hits us all in the wallet. Paul joins us now with the story. Paul.
Karen Todd, between the chop shop arrest and that tragic carjacking and murder of a woman earlier this week in Gentilly, car theft has certainly been top of mind here in New Orleans, and it's one of the reasons why the city has some of the highest car insurance rates in the country. The Louisiana State Police identified a suspected chop shop in the 8000 block of Bass Street in the middle of a residential street in the Little Woods neighborhood in New Orleans East. They arrested 32-year-old Edwin Smith on 5 counts of possession of stolen vehicles, totaling nearly $50,000. The LSP also connected Smith to another suspected chop shop in the 16,000 block of Chef Mentor. Stephen Bradford runs a nearby towing company.
There's a bunch of cars, a couple of trailers, different equipment. They would steal anything.
Smith's arrest points to a growing problem in New Orleans. NOPD crime stats indicate car theft is up about 13% year over year. So far this year, there have been just more than 2,600 car thefts in the city. That's compared to nearly 2,300 for all of last year. Parker Ellis from the New Orleans insurance agency Gillis, Ellis & Baker says car theft is one of the reasons why Louisiana has the second most expensive car insurance rates in the country.
I think insurance companies start to wonder, do we need to raise rates across the whole book of business because this is an unsafe place to have a car?
Individual policyholders could also see a substantial rate increase.
Suddenly their car gets stolen and now we've got a $30,000 claim on our hands. That affects their renewal premiums. You could be looking at 5–10% rate increases for something that's not even your fault.
Back in the East, Bradford wants the city to crack down on car theft.
People work for their cars, their hard-earned money, and these crooks just do whatever they want.
And coming up new at 6, we have a list of the top 5 stolen vehicles in the New Orleans area. We're live in the French Quarter. Paul Murphy, Eyewitness News.